What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Yeah. P. Diddy, man, it's bigger than Diddy. This is how I get my information, by actually checking out FD Signifier, checking out other people's channels and seeing what they putting, you know, what kind of spin they putting on it, and understanding from their point of view. So y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Let's check this bad boy out.
Oh, known that he was a snake.
Hold up, y'all.
They say this video of him beating ex-girlfriend Cassie was leaked by the Department of Homeland
He believes he's innocent.
Security.
I believe he's innocent.
I know y'all take it like, well, that was
crazy,
awful.
man.
That's cruel. But that is the game you in. I am sorry. That is the game you decided to get in.
John Combs is already fighting multiple sex assault allegations, each one more disturbing than the next.
I like them ugly. You have to know
His
it.
latest accuser says he was 10 years old
I
at the
don't
time.
like just to win. I want to win over and over and over. I want to be at the end of the day. I want all of us
Diddy
to be
Combs
the best.
investigation. New surveillance video shows Combs being taken into custody in a Manhattan hotel last week.
Next, give me something else.
He took me out of a dangerous game. I mean, I was so hard. When I got the record deal, all I got cut short. So it's like he Jesus to me, you know what I'm saying? Because he just saved me.
Can't you do it? I can do it. I can do anything.
Hey guys, thank you for watching our videos. If you want to check out our live channel, the Music Recording Network Live, where we dive deeper into videos that we put up and talk about different things that's going on in the world. You can participate in our chat, or you can come on live. You don't even have to show your face. Go to our live channel, subscribe, voice your opinion, because we would like to hear from you and help us come up with solutions. Now, let's continue on with this video. Wow,
You know, the game
that's
has been
true.
elevated. As we can tell, there's no expense being spared. We are the Black Billionaires Lunch. Yeah, you understand? Right. And we here together, and we're gonna keep staying together. We getting tighter. You know what I'm saying? And united we stand. And ain't nothing else to us. Black excellence, right? Yeah.
How big?
If you are here for the detailed breakdown of all the salacious, horrifying crimes of one Sean Puffy Combs, I just want to warn you up front, this video will disappoint you. I don't say that as a way to undermine the crimes and accusations toward the man. I think the things he's been accused of are very serious, and I think he did pretty much all of that shit. Allegedly, right? The things he's accused of are so serious, in fact, that I think it's actually more important for me to spend my time and energy to address them in a more in-depth and nuanced way. One thing that always happens with these types of stories, these types of events, is that everyone gets really riled up to rightfully pillory a bad guy. And going back through the history of human civilization, be it public canings or guillotines or entire towns watching alleged witches being burned at the stake, or white Southerners taking pictures of a public lynching of a accused black person, there's a kind of gross cathartic engagement that people have always had with watching someone go down. But unlike many of those situations throughout history, it's not often where everyone, no matter their ideology or background, that they can come together, sit back and say, yeah, this motherfucker had it coming. And I want to be clear, Diddy most definitely does have it coming, but I find myself needing to do more than make a video explaining that. What I think is more important is discussing how Diddy got to the status he was in the first place, and how that status protected him from pretty much well-known crimes he was committing behind the scenes to a lot of people, both physically, sexually, and financially. Sean Diddy Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, he has a lot of names. I'll be using a lot of them interchangeably, is the most recent in what is sadly a growing tradition of famous, powerful black male entertainers from my era being exposed as predators and abusers, as he faces federal sex trafficking charges. And this is coming off the heels of numerous women suing him over sexual misconduct and abuse allegations of various forms, with the most notable being his ex-girlfriend Cassie, to whom he paid out a $10 million settlement last year, requiring her to at least agree not to speak on her experiences with him. This did not stop a tape of him brutally attacking her in a hotel hallway from being released to the public, which had the effect of finally, after literal decades of people saying he was a bad guy, being seen as a bad guy in hip hop culture permanently, facing the same fate as Bill Cosby and R. Kelly before him after their crimes were exposed. By the way, here's all the trigger warnings because this goes dark at times, and I'm not going to show him abusing anyone, but if you're sensitive to that, similar to as if I was talking about R. Kelly or Bill Cosby, you might want to check in with me for another video. That said, this is different to me than R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. People knew about Bill Cosby's crimes, but they were still greatly a secret by comparison. Nobody had much bad to say about Bill Cosby, like publicly, although it was something that people were aware of, at least within the industry and to an extent outside of it. R. Kelly is kind of in between because his crimes were known. At one point he was on trial for. After he got acquitted, a lot of folks, you know, they gave him space. They still dealt with him a little bit, but he also did lose a bit of his star power. Like before R. Kelly went to jail, his most notable thing in years was that bizarre Tyler Perry inspired Trapped in the Closet series. But Diddy was very different. Diddy was a known ghoul in the industry for years. His abuse of Cassie was an open secret. His abuse of his previous girlfriend, Kim Porter, was an open secret. His sex parties and freak-offs were an open secret, to the point where many a celebrity had either tacitly or openly spoken on occasion about how they didn't mess with Diddy because they knew what Diddy was.
I'm gonna have a party, and we had parties, but I was more like just trying to just vibe, like just see where I look back on where I became.
Did you miss me though? For real? Because it seems like a thing.
I miss
this birthday
with
party,
Puff, man.
But I'm talking about for your birthday.
Huh?
Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man?
We partied for my birthday before. You came to my party.
No, but me and you ain't never really party, you know what I'm saying?
What are some things that you feel like I should look out for? You know, coming into the game. Like, you've been in the game for a long time, man.
Somebody's house for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Stay away from that. Stay away from the take that mansion. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, stay away from that.
Whoa.
Second, they're laughing because they know it's true.
Diddy also had been in violent altercations with numerous other figures within the industry, including assaulting Drake at a party.
Historically, we've heard about you putting hands on people throughout the years. Like, what made you put hands on Drake?
I did not
His
put
son
hands
is
on
right
Drake.
there, young.
And I do not want any
His son is sitting right there. Wow. Come on, y'all.
Party.
Historically, we've heard about you putting hands on people throughout the years. Like, what made you put hands on Drake?
I did not put hands on Drake.
Oh.
And I do not want any problems with Drake.
I wonder how old his son was.
Drake is, right now, that's all I got.
That smirk on his
Getting
face.
two-piece by J. Cole at another party.
My last scrap was with Puff Daddy. Who would have thought it? I bought that nigga album in 7th grade and played it so much you would have thought my favorite rapper was Puff. Back then I ain't know shit, now I know too much.
At least one known shooting that caused him to break up with J-Lo and one of his rappers to go to jail.
According to police reports, the couple jumped into the backseat of his SUV. Puffy's driver and his bodyguard were in front. Officers arrived as the SUV pulled away. They ordered the driver to stop. Instead, he swerved around a patrol car and led cops on an 11-block chase. Police finally forced the SUV to pull over. Officers discovered a loaded gun on the front seat.
Everybody was booked, including Jennifer Lopez. They spent the night in the precinct.
He was also responsible for the poor fate of numerous other rappers under him. There is a long list of rappers and singers who curse his name openly over unpaid royalties, bad contracts, or just being cheated out of money. His penchant for abuse and cruelty was basically the main character of numerous reality TV shows throughout the mid-2000s and on MTV.
Point, your will go back. Somebody gonna quit. Somebody ain't got the heart, the stamina to be bad boy. Somebody ain't got the passion, the drive, the intensity to want it. Somebody's mental capacity breaks at a certain point. I need to see it now. I want to see it when I'm 2 million in.
But yet he persisted. Not just persisted, Diddy thrived.
Diddy
Diddy gained an unrivaled iconic status in hip hop. Rubbed elbows, not just with hip hop and industry giants, but business giants in general, and connected with the political elite. All of this while being well known that he was a snake, abuser, and a predator. And not in the hushed way of...
Because all of them had secrets. If you're going to take and keep my secrets, then I'm going to help you with your secrets. All of them.
You know, different predators like maybe a Harvey Weinstein were. No, these were loud public accusations, trials, and multiple other legendary artists constantly sounding the alarm that Diddy was bad. Yet nobody seemed to care till there was video proof. How and why is this possible? If it seems implausible that this would be the case, remember that we've seen this before. We saw this same routine again with Harvey Weinstein in the predominantly white world of Hollywood. We saw it with Cosby, and there are numerous other abusers and predators still moving around Hollywood in our entertainment industry. Even our politicians are doing this with minimal resistance. And this is because we have a culture that believes that those with power, especially men, are simply allowed to do certain things that those with less power cannot.
Wow.
And more than anything, that is what I'm going to talk about. Not just the horrors of Diddy behind the scenes, although it's going to come up a bit, but more to peel back the onion on how and why Diddy was able to exist in the first place, both as a legend and game changer in hip hop, a mogul and executives at the levels of power in the entertainment industry, as well as a monster behind and in front of the scenes the entire time. Diddy is a symptom of a bigger problem within hip hop and all media, where the misogynistic and patriarchal norms of those spaces make it not just possible, but predictable that someone like Diddy can survive and thrive. Because this one isn't just some hip hop lore, I needed to reach out to some folks closer to the story than I was, because I wanted to dig deeper into the entirety of the era that Diddy was born out of. An era that coincides with some of my own very vivid memories of hip hop, an era that was greatly shaped by Diddy for better and for worse. And most importantly, an era and culture that everyone was a part of.
This is a true economic business, right? Mm-hmm. Supply and demand. You take away the demand, there's no supply. Nobody's trying to buy a VCR right now. You know, right. So there's no one selling it. But we've heard oftentimes that prostitution is the oldest profession, which we know is not true. Mm-hmm. You know, farming is the oldest profession. And a lot of times when you take away those narratives that people have, mm-hmm. you really begin to see how people are exploited and what makes people vulnerable. Because trafficking is a really big business. But it's about power and control.
Who he's been, whether it was triggering to one group of people or another group of people, or people are talking about one incident or another incident, his brand has been so separate from however safe he felt that when all these allegations have come out, people aren't questioning whether it's in his ability to do this. Especially when that Cassie tape came out. When that Cassie tape was made visible, after him denying that even happened, like, you know, literally an hour before everybody saw it or whatever, or whenever he was reacting to the lawsuit. As soon as that, like, literally everything is legitimately confirmed in a lot of people's mind. And that lets you know how long he's been living above the law or outside of his own humanity.
Right.
And to have it implemented, to him to be such a powerful person with all these influences and having so much control over entertainment, and then truthfully the spirits business, truthfully fashion too, truthfully, I mean, he's over here with presidents.
My story is that I was thinking about this as we were setting it up, because I was like, I don't really have nothing. Like, I didn't see anything. But what I want to talk about is how every fucking body knew. Every fucking body knew. So I got both of them. R. Kelly and Diddy. I go to a Diddy yacht party. I want to go to a Diddy party. So I finally get invited to one. I'm getting to the door. Another nigga I know, he like, no, she can't come in.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, damn, I can't stop meeting these haters. Now here we are all these years later, and I know why. And I'm like, but all of these men who knew, everybody fucking knew. And if they didn't have nobody to care about you, that's two situations right there. Could have had me completely fucked up.
I think the harm goes way back. I think if we think about how the music industry has historically worked for Black people, I think there has always been an understanding that if you are going to engage in the music industry, be prepared for harm.
Right.
You know, I think there has always been a fight, particularly for identifiably Black women, to get their penance properly from the music industry. Right. And because it's the same sort of principle. Let me exploit you because you're going to have opportunity that nobody else has. Mm-hmm. And so don't see it as me exploiting you. see it as opportunity that nobody else has. Because I'm wealthy. And look at my house. And look at the people that I'm around. And you want access to this. And I will give you access to this if you allow me to financially harm you.
Much as Diddy deserves every takedown, think piece, expose.
Wow. This is the conclusion I'm coming up with. I keep saying, dude, music doesn't make that much money. Who's buying the music? Ask yourself when the last time your friends and family members, the people you hang around, how often y'all buy music? You buy more gas than music. Think about it. Think about it, man.
I want access to this. And I will give you access to this if you allow me to financially harm you.
Much as Diddy deserves every takedown, think piece, expose that he has gotten, it's more important to recognize that everyone knew what he was doing. And if we don't engage with that, then we'll just make it okay for the next Diddy to do the same thing. We as a wider culture, not just black folks, not just hip hop, because this is definitely not an only hip hop thing. I want to make that clear early on, but really the American way. We always seem shocked as insert bad man here does exactly the same thing that bad men have done throughout history. So let's actually analyze that history to figure out why it keeps happening. And to do that, we do have to understand how and why Diddy became such an iconic figure in the first place. And for that, we're just going to, before we get to the bad stuff, spend a little time analyzing and breaking down some hip hop history.
It all goes back to one point. I have a dream. A lot of times people see your dreams as they crazy. You going for your passion you have for your dreams may make you act crazy. You're trying to reach your goals for your dreams. You're driven, you know. The dreams you have are so visionary, they may call you a genius. But it's just, I'm a dreamer. I love closing my eyes and dreaming. I don't really deal with reality when I deal with trying to work towards the future.
1969.
Diddy was born in 1969 in Harlem, New York, to Janice and Melvin
3 years
Combs.
old.
Sadly, Melvin Combs, Diddy's father, was murdered when Diddy was only 2 years old, leaving him fatherless and forcing him into the stereotypical impoverished environment that is a staple for the rag to riches stories that hip hop tends to lionize. Although Diddy did eventually move to a much nicer Mount Vernon suburb later in his life, still, we're talking about the 80s when crime and urban decay in New York was at an all-time high. Our modern news media likes to sensationalize urban crime today when actually crime is down in America compared to the 70s and 80s. Thus, Diddy came of age in New York in the thick of the crack epidemic.
More commonly known as crack, because it's cheaper to buy.
Mothers be sitting there talking, and next thing you know, out of the dark, gunshots just start going off.
The war did continue in the streets, and Americans on the front lines had their own battle-hardened reaction to the new strategy.
It's not something I've ever heard Diddy speak on, but it's hard to imagine that even in Mount Vernon, he didn't have his fair share of struggle and horrors that were very close to him. All that said, it seemed like he was shielded from the worst of those things. Diddy attended a private Catholic school and managed to attend the prestigious historically black college Howard University in Washington, D.C., where he would make a name for himself as a local party promoter, and this eventually made a path for him to get involved with the exploding hip-hop music industry in the late 80s.
Started basically in college, Howard University, and I started doing internships. And one of my internships was at Uptown MCA Records, and I went from an intern to a permanent position there.
Diddy is entering into a hip-hop world in the late 80s and early 90s, right as it stops being the avant-garde radical music wave and when it becomes a big money industry with lots of corporate attention. And this positions Diddy to be a huge benefactor as he is connected to the raw art form through his entertainment and street connections, but also has the education and language to translate all of that organic hip-hop connection into corporate benefit. He is the perfect gatekeeper, right as that role of gatekeeping is being established, and this immediately imbues him with a lot of power in hip-hop.
I just took people that I thought I could get along with, and people that I'm fans of. I'm fans of all of those people. Like, it bugs me out that I'm headlining a tour, like, and I'm fans of all of these people that are helping to support me.
Let's take a close look of how Diddy, a man with legit really only one talent, found himself as a vector of significant power between so many talented people. And to do that, really need to just recognize that he just copied the framework that was already there. being done to black artists by white people for generations.
Rap shows, black shows have not sold out in years since Triple Threat. And I'm telling you right now, it's easy. If we just do this couple of things, you're gonna sell records, and at the end of the day, you're gonna be going and playing to packed houses.
The music industry has, for most of its existence, been an industry deeply rooted in all the awful parts of capitalism. I talk about capitalism a lot, but for those of you who are new here, I want to explain a few things to make sense of how exploitative this industry and capitalism is.
Diddy, dirty money. Let's go.
One common misconception about capitalism is the belief that capitalism is simply the pursuit of money and wanting to have a lot of it and get more of it, or thinking that just having money or some power makes you a capitalist. And this isn't true. Having a good job and making a lot of money does not make you a capitalist, okay? If you do not own or control the means of production, you are a worker. Fewer industries are a more pure example of the failure of capitalism than the music industry. In the music industry, the product is art and music, and the laborer is the artist or musician. And people want good music and are willing to pay for it in some form or fashion. And the people that make the music, the artists, are the core contributors to what makes that industry work. However, to maximize their ability to make money off their music, which is only possible by getting it to the largest population that they can access, artists back in Diddy's era, in a world before streaming, they needed record companies to help. And this will require them to sign a contract with a company to be responsible to distribute their music, and the record company, the distributor, would take a cut of the profit. This wouldn't be so bad if not for the fact that over time, these record companies found ways to squeeze more and more money out of the artists while doing very little to reciprocate that value back to the artists. And that is the end result of capitalism pretty much in every situation. It always ends with, how can I make more money by getting more out of someone else? One of the ways that the record companies did this high level of exploitation of the artists was through ownership of masters or publishing rights. So you might make a song, write a song, and that song belongs to you. But in order to sign that record deal and to literally put that song on a record back in the day, the record label would require you to sign over rights to publish and distribute that song, so they get the most significant cut of the song's actual purchase on the market. In some cases, it would be 50 to even 100% of all money made off the purchase of a song when it came to actually selling copies of the song the artist made to the people that want to hear the artist song. This sounds ridiculous and unfair,
Mechanical rights.
But record companies understood that they had all the leverage, and they would offer a one-time check to a hungry, starving artist in exchange to get full rights to their publishing and masters. And many artists, especially rappers, didn't even understand how that worked.
Especially with a like you, when I help get your ass out of a situation and you looking at me in my face telling me you ain't gonna do something. I can see if I told you to go rob a bank, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing some, I'm gonna go get some cheesecake. You got that much ego? Go do your thing, man. Don't sit here and be talking about it, man. Be fly about it. Get your swag on, walk that way.
However, industry rule number 4080, if you know, you know. You ever wonder why so many of your favorite artists go broke and claim bankruptcy? Why so many rappers seem to not actually have what they say they have in their music? Why musicians are touring in their 50s and 60s just trying to stay afloat? This is because so much of their worth, so much of the value that they brought to the world was stolen by these record labels. It's the epitome of capitalism as a system. The real value bringers in the system, the ones that make the entire industry possible, get the least amount of return on their.
That's why we try our best to teach independent, become an independent, learn, not just put your music out on these social medias. You have to learn how to get mechanical rights. You have to learn how to get distribution and different deals to support your music. Sponsorships and different things like that.
It's the epitome of capitalism as a system. The real value bringers in the system, the ones that make the entire industry possible, get the least amount of return on their own talent and effort. And for many of them, their best situation is putting themselves in a position to one day be the exploiter themselves. That's why so many rappers start record labels back in the day. But we're getting into territory I'll touch on again later. Just understand exploitation is a core factor of this entire story, and it's why Puffy is who he is. When it comes to hip hop, the only weakness that these record labels had at this time period when hip hop is exploding was that they had little to no clue of what to look for in this brand new, vibrant, radical art form. And they would just be grabbing up talent left and right, not knowing which one would be valuable to exploit or which one they'd actually want to invest funds in. For every Tribe Called Quest, there's a Jungle Brothers, or worse yet, UMC or Crew. Not every rap group was going to be a huge hit. So this made men like Diddy super valuable to the labels, which is why he first got his position in the music industry. And he knew this.
Behind the scenes, they kind of intrigued me. So I started working for free. I took an internship and I would work for record companies for free, like a record company called Uptown MCA Records.
Right.
And that's how I got my start, from behind the scenes, just working for free. And then when a job came available, I was like one of the most likely candidates and I got a chance.
See, by the late 80s, as everyone sees the big money, we also begin to see large record labels like Gold rush in to scoop up hip hop talent. Early on, this talent would emerge organically through word of mouth and numerous wannabe players and future music execs all the time trying to find the next big thing and profit off of them. For example, take Rakim, the GOAT of this early era.
I got enough to go around, and the thought takes place uptown. I grew up on the sidewalk while I learned street talk, then taught the whole New York. I go to Queens for Queen, get the crew for Brooklyn, live money in Manhattan and never been took.
He emerged as a phenomenon in the mid-80s and connected with local DJ Eric B, and they formed a partnership after connecting to another former hip-hop legend, Marley Marl, and released their first few singles under the independent Zakaya Records, ran by Robert Hill, with likely very minimal income for anyone in this early part of the work. But all of this got the attention of another future legend and owner of his own set of abuse and assault allegations, Russell Simmons, who then signed them to Island Records, ran by Chris Blackwell, and then they released their first album to critical acclaim, but technically not on Island Records. Instead, it's 4th and Broadway Records, which is under Island Records. Then the album Paid in Full was so successful that Rakim and Eric B were able to land a deal with MCA Records for $1 million. And this is the late 80s. Nothing like that was happening, and that deal would have been worth like $3 million today. That deal with MCA Records was under the leadership of Irving Azoff, where Rakim would stay for the next 6 or 7 years. Look at all these faces and names involved with capitalizing off hip-hop way back in the late 80s to the early 90s. And notice how the faces get wider when the money gets bigger, and less is going to the people closest to the art. This is what made guys like Diddy very valuable, because Diddy's only true talent was as a party promoter, which foretells some of his future crimes. His parties were able to bring in lots of people with money and power, lots of girls, lots of drugs, lots of talent, and lots of wannabe entertainers trying to get on.
Yeah, now you had a party out in the Hamptons, I guess.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis heard it was going to be such a good party.
Yeah, he took a helicopter.
He took a helicopter to the party.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Are the parties that good?
Yeah, they crazy.
Crazy.
I ain't gonna lie.
So this left Diddy deeply connected with the club scene, the music scene, and the streets. And this allowed him to be the first to identify talent that could be pulled into the industry. Diddy was quickly scooped up by Uptown Records as an intern under one of his mentors and notable hip-hop gatekeeper, Andre Harrell. However, this didn't last long. To his credit, it seemed Diddy saw how the game was being played and felt like he deserved a bigger chunk of what was being offered. So in 1993, he left Harrell and started Bad Boy Records.
And you have your own record label now.
Yes, I have my own record label. All of my artists on my record label. I'm on my own record label. It's called Bad Boy Entertainment.
Diddy starting Bad Boy represents one of the earliest mega successes, if not the mega success in black entrepreneurship in the music industry, where these black men who were being basically paid off, getting one-time finder's fee, decided that they wanted to be bigger players in the hip-hop industry game. Brothers are realizing that they could make more money for longer by, and this would be a running theme, exploiting their connection to the artists by just partnering with these larger companies. Thus, we have Eazy-E with Ruthless Records in LA, Rap A Lot with Jay Prince in Houston, and of course, Def Jam started by Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons. Diddy wanted to be in that same category. However, Puff wanted to be different. He wanted to be bigger and better than that category had to offer. Puff understood hip-hop as a star-making vehicle. He saw the future in a way that nobody else did up until that point. To a great extent at this time, even as it's starting to get bigger, it's still very small, and hip-hop felt regional and insular and very self-referential in comparison. It was still at this point very inwardly focused. Rappers and hip-hop fans were trying to one-up and impress each other, as was typical of hip-hop's competitive origins and really black culture as a whole. There was money there, but nobody was really thinking about how to expand hip hop to its maximum capitalistic potential. This is still an era where rap music isn't even being played on most radio stations and music TV channels, even the black ones. Nobody is thinking of hip hop as a global phenomenon except Sean Puffy Combs.
I can't deal with what a reality is supposed to be. I have to take it to where I see it could go, where I feel it could go. I have to dream, no matter if I succeed or fail. I can never be afraid of dreaming. I think that's what's got me this far. This whole thing is a big dream to me.
Puff's goal was to have the biggest party possible. He didn't just want to be Puff's goal was to have the biggest party possible. He didn't just want to be hot in New York. He wanted to be hot nation and worldwide. He didn't want his label and artists to compete with other rappers. He wanted his label and artists to compete with rock stars and pop stars. And most uniquely, Puff didn't want to just be the label executive behind the scenes. He wanted to be front and center as a key figure in the promotion of his company. Puff didn't just want the money. He wanted the money, power, and respect. This started out slowly with his first big breakout at Craig Mack and the mega hit Flavor in Your Ear.
You won't be around next year. My rap's too severe. Get my flavor hit here. Here comes a brand new flavor hit here.
However, before that even fully played out, Puff.
I gotta admit, man, that was a vicious line. That was a vicious bar right there. You won't be around next year. My rap style too severe. Kicking mad flavor in your ear. Rest in peace, man.
Around next year,
Craig Mack.
Get my flavor hit here. Here comes a brand new flavor hit here.
However, before that even fully played out, Puff had already started to focus his efforts on one Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G, aka Notorious Big, Biggie or Biggie Smalls, and put Big on the remix to that mega hit and release his first album, Ready to Die, before Craig Mack's first album, Project Funk the World, had even released.
Gonna drop for B.I.G. and Craig Mack.
September 12th is B.I.G. September 21st is Craig Mack.
As such, Funk the World received minimal push and publicity only because Puff knew what he had in Big and Ready to Die. That album was immediately labeled a classic and Big was instantly crowned the new king of New York. Diddy had knocked it out of the park on his first at-bat and had done so in a way nobody had expected. See, Big was a rather unlikely superstar. While in private, most people that knew him described him as being magnanimous and charismatic with a bright personality, and his music presented this incredibly engaging and sometimes dark but always enthralling voice and figure that painted vivid pictures with his words. But in interviews and in public, Big was relatively subdued.
So I just stay more in the business side of everything instead of being a nigga that's gonna get drunk at the bar and fuck all the bitches and just stay at hotels all night and just trick a whole lot of money. I stay home with my wife and watch my money.
Further, Big was not the type of guy, not the type of star, even in rap, that people were expecting. Up until that point, guys like Rakim, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, they came through with really good looks to go along with their superstar personalities and personas. Rock stars had the rock star aesthetic. And of course, we had R&B really up until that point for years prior, and they would often make girls swoon and throw underwear on the stage just at their presence. But to quote Big, heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever. But this left a really interesting role for Puff because he wanted to be valuable, he wanted to be present, and because Big didn't have that charismatic presence on screen, Puff became that for him.
I was so used to seeing Puffy face forward as a part of Bad Boy, just in general. Right? I mean, you had the 95 Social Awards, you know, where Suge Knight calls him out, and then he talks about unity.
Any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row.
He'd been omnipresent in all the Bad Boy videos.
Yeah.
He was in all the interviews, but it always felt like it was kind of both of them to me. It almost felt like they were a bit of a duo.
Yeah.
Except one of them was
being
just
Rakim, but like
right.
not really.
Right. One of them was responsible for ad-libs and hype, you know.
If you saw Big, you saw Puff. If you were interviewing Big, they were interviewing Puff. If it was a magazine cover or music video with Big, it was a magazine cover or music video with Puff.
We banging, baby. We making music strictly for the streets. We appreciate y'all support, and it's all good.
You might want to look at this as exploitative, and you should. There was an underlying feeling that Puff was just there to leech off Biggie's ability and talent, and it was, but it was also iconic, and it worked. Puff didn't just help create a star just through his presence, though. He also guided the music, and in doing so, popularized an image that shifted the whole genre. I'm going to oversimplify this next part, but let's talk a little bit about hip-hop sampling and break beats, all right? Just follow me for the hardcore hip-hop nerd shit for a second, which, I mean, if you're watching this in this section, what else could you actually ask for?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go!
Hey. In the early 90s, rap music was still dominated by gangster rap, as well as the more purist adjacent stuff like Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, etc. But all of it was still very sample and breakbeat heavy. And by sample or breakbeat, I'm talking about small sections of other songs that hip hop looped together.
My hands are
Hip hop is a child of jazz, funk, R&B, rock and roll, right? And if you know anything about those genres, you know that regardless of the core melody of a song, there were always these little flourishes that was a break beat or an intro or an outro. It was these cool things that happened in these songs, but only for a moment. And hip hop came along and said, why not just make that the whole song? Why don't we take this 10-second, 20-second piece of a song that everyone knows and loves and loop that shit into its own melody? And that's what Kool Herc did back in '73. And that's really one of the true amazing but overly simple pieces of magic that hip hop gives us.
These niggas talking out of their neck, don't put no coffin out of yo. I'm way too paranoid, boy. Let's get it, bro. DOT, the money power, that last one is better. It's a lot of goofies with a check, I mean.
But this also means that a lot of early hip hop was producers digging into the same crates that all of them owned and trying to find different pieces of melodies, and all of them can't be as classic as the intro to that Barry White joint, which itself has been sampled over 300 times. Naturally, it becomes harder and harder to make unique, dynamic beats, so Puff took a very lazy but extremely effective new angle. Again, Puff is a promoter, a party thrower, and he realized that the biggest successes, the most money that hip hop had to offer was getting the party started. He was the anti-JPEG mafia. He didn't want to wow the rap nerds at the time with his sampling and creativity and expertise with a bunch of musty dudes nodding their heads in the basement. He wanted the ladies to come, dress real nice, drink, and then get loose to these easy melodies. So to do that, Diddy figured, why are we just sampling one part of this great disco song? Why don't we just take the whole song?
Everybody was chasing Dr. Dre and how he was able to make sounds come out of his speakers, right? And so you look at Doggy Style was the biggest rap album probably ever at that point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was, Doggy Style is sampled at the beginning of Ready to Die. And, you know, Biggie even makes reference to, depending on how you listen to it, take it, maybe it's an entendre, to Snoop falling off after with the Dogfather or whatever. But, you know, that was super sample based. The G-Funk era was still within the realms of artistic sampling, I think, for most people.
Yeah.
And Diddy was like, you know, we just gonna take all the More Money, More Problems for the hook, right? I looked at that as, when I look back at it, I look at that as more of a positive thing because I think it exposed more people to where a lot of the samples were coming from. Like, I think more people, especially kids, were getting exposed to a totally different generation of music in whole. Like, at the same time, though, don't get me wrong, I definitely was in a lot of critical conversations about Diddy. That style of sampling also felt lazy. It felt lazy. It felt like, you know, all the things that we love about producers all of a sudden became less relevant. And there's a lot of things that Diddy did over his career, or Diddy said over his career, to me had that impact on the rap industry or how people viewed success of rap albums.
If the song got people to dance and move in the 70s and 80s with someone singing over it, surely it could get people to dance and move in the 90s with someone rapping over it. He wasn't the first to do this, of course, but he was definitely the first to make it his entire style as a producer. And Ready to Die was a perfect example of this. Most of Ready to Die is your typical, at the time, New York mafioso gangster rap, but it did have a few tracks like Juicy, which took the entire melody and even its chorus from the 80s hit from Intune's Juicy Fruit. Then the second single, Big Papa, followed the same success by sampling the Isley Brothers Between the Sheets. And the final single, One More Chance, is actually a remix of the original album version. The album version of One More Chance is a traditional New York style hip hop track. The single version, however, uses a sample and the chorus from a DeBarge song of the same name. With these three singles being huge radio hits, Ready to Die was able to be a huge success that penetrated parts of the rap landscape that nobody knew existed at the time. And to give credit, this also brought attention to Biggie's unparalleled lyricism and wordplay in songs like Warning or Unbelievable, or the darkly introspective tracks like Suicidal Thoughts.
Yeah.
It was genuinely the best of both worlds. And at the time, it felt like a great evolution and revolution in hip hop. It meant that we could have the hardcore, high-end hip hop shit be popular and get to all the people. It would make the art form grow and make people get rich. There was nothing to complain about if you weren't paying good attention. Diddy would repeat this formula over and over for the next decade with Mace and the Lox, 112, even Jay-Z. It was impossible to turn on black radio in the mid to late 90s and not hear Bad Boy, and it influenced an entire era that would eventually be called the shiny suit era after Puff. He was changing the game, and unlike his forebearers, he was also making a lots of money off his music and his artists on his label. There's a world where this continues in perpetuity, but as you know, Notorious B.I.G was murdered on March 9, 1997, only a few weeks before his second album, the eerily titled Life After Death, was set to drop. Biggie's death shook the world, as it was the second hip-hop legend in less than a year to be murdered following the death of Tupac the previous September. There's a lot of stories about Biggie's death and the currently unsolved nature of it, some of which cast suspicious light on Diddy. Big allegedly wanted to leave Diddy. This isn't fully confirmed, but strongly rumored. And considering how Puff would treat all his artists from that point on, it is plausible.
It was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
So many imply that Puff may have had something to do with Biggie's death. I didn't do the research on this theory, and I don't want to make this the focus of the video. What I will do is discuss how Biggie's death is one of the best things to ever happen to Diddy, and arguably one of the worst things to ever happen to hip hop.
You know, we still missing, ain't nothing. It don't get no better. A lot of people will say like time heals wounds. Big should be here. Tupac should
I was so used to seeing Puffy face forward as a part of Bad Boy, just in general. When, after he passes and Every Breath You Take comes out, it actually felt, well, yeah, of course this is what happened. Yeah, of course Diddy got to make a song for Biggie. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, maybe how big that song got surprised some people.
Feels like yesterday we used to rock the show. I lace the track, you lock the flow.
Only a few months after Biggie's death, Diddy released the song I'll Be Missing You, a sentimental tribute to his fallen friend. It was a huge hit, again using Diddy's formula of recycling classic, well-established.
But who wrote the lyrics, though? Who wrote that? I think Mace wrote that. That's what I think. Y'all let me know in the comments. Who wrote the lyrics to Every Breath You Take? I know Puffy didn't write it. We know that part.
A few months after Biggie's death, Diddy released the song I'll Be Missing You, a sentimental tribute to his fallen friend. It was a huge hit, again using Diddy's formula of recycling classic, well-established melodies, this time being somewhat different, as instead of an old soul or R&B song, it pulled from the Police's classic ballad Every Breath You Take.
That has lost someone that they truly love. Every breath you take.
It also won Diddy a Grammy and was the first rap song to make it to the top of the Billboard Top 100, spending 11 weeks there. It was a fitting tribute from a friend to his fallen peer and celebrated as such. I never liked this song. I don't know how hot of a take that is today. I definitely wasn't saying it back then, but I legit don't think I've ever listened to this song all the way through on purpose. Aside from it feeling icky, even to me as a young man back then, Diddy also is just a really, really bad rapper. It's amazing because he has this incredibly engaging persona in public and when people talk to him, but as soon as he gets on the mic, all of that goes away. He is a black void of charisma and magnetism. And it's apparent on this and every song from Diddy in this era. He got better over time, but just no. And then on top of that, it...
Woo, my man must know music. He must know music because what he's saying is facts. I mean, I'm not even his opinion and my opinion. That's not what I'm going off of because I feel the same way. Going off of his numbers on every song compared to the Craig Mack or the Biggie or the Tupac, 50 Cent. Look at their numbers compared to, I'll tell you what. You tell me 2 or 3 of 50 Cent songs or even Ja Rule, right? Tell me one of Puffy songs other than this one. Because that's the Police song and somebody else wrote it. So you tell me another Puffy song. I'll wait, dog.
A black void of charisma and magnetism. And it's apparent on this and every song from Diddy in this era. He got better over time, but just no. And then on top of that, it felt a bit performative. On some level, it was obvious Diddy would do a tribute to his friend, but the magnitude of it and the way it rewarded Diddy never sat well with me because this song propelled Diddy into superstar rapper status and he became really one of the first truly international rap superstars as probably the worst rapper rapping at the time. Despite that, the whole of the culture got behind him, even if some of the purists and, hardcore fans weren't really fans of Diddy because, again, he couldn't rap. They respected Big and Big's legacy enough to not say much of anything.
For someone who's just like, fuck the collective, I just want the capitalism, which is a Puffy.
Right.
Keeping proximity to like a CL Smooth, a Pete Rock, these men who would in some wavelength be peddling in this kind of hotep, just for shorthand, theology, keeping them and having access to them, even a Rakim. I'm saying this because I used to work at Cornerstone Promotions, which has a 300 mixtape. So all these men would like walk through the office.
And suddenly Diddy, a demonstrably bad rapper, not mid, not decent, outright bad, was being spoken of in the same breath as the top tiers like Nas and Jay-Z at the time.
Exactly.
This wasn't a good thing.
How did that happen?
They're finishing Life After Death, and they had songs for No Way Out that were kind of in process anyway, right? So you get Life After Death that comes out, I think in March, maybe?
Something
I know he
like
died.
It came out like the week after he died, or maybe the week he did that he died. And then No Way Out is like June, yeah.
And so that's fast because now you have 2 albums that are both number ones and both have number one songs and both have number one songs on them. You have Mo Money, Mo Problem going at the same time as Every Breath You Take,
right?
And so all of that it felt tragic that Big died, of course, but it was very logical for me at that same time. I don't think I even thought about it being nefarious in the same way. Now, of course, there was all the speculation.
In hindsight, it feels very nefarious, especially
a
few months later, Diddy would release his first solo album, No Way Out, which also debuted at #1, sold millions of copies. And even though it wasn't a traditional solo album, as half of it is more like a bad boy artist showcase, think like how We the Best, what's that dude name? What's this?
We the Best music.
We the Best. Fuck is this dude's name?
This is called what?
That's just avocado toast.
This is called what?
Turkey sausage.
This is called what?
Turkey bacon.
And this is called what?
Veggie scramble.
And what is this?
Those are pickled banana peppers.
And what is this?
Berries and seeds.
And perhaps what is this?
Water.
Think of like how DJ Khaled does his albums, where he's not really doing anything specific except yelling in the background half the time. And Puffy did more than that. He did have several solo songs on this album, but pretty much all those songs are horrible. Regardless, it made huge waves in the rap world, with Every Breath You Take being the first single, and then this next single being All About the Benjamins. All About the Benjamins is one of those hip hop events where I cannot express to you the magnitude of the moment adequately. You just had to have been there. The song redefined the concept of street banger. The only songs I can think of that had a similar impact on the culture at once would maybe be like Rough Riders Anthem from DMX in 98. A Millie from Wayne back in 06, 07.
A million here, a million there, Sicilian going on there. We're working a dairy, yeah.
Bad and Bougie from the Migos a couple of years ago.
I feel like there's like a running joke with you being left off Bad and Bougie.
I ain't left off Bad and Bougie. You think I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Say again?
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
What'd you say?
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Yeah.
Do it look like I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
What'd you say?
Do it look like I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Nah, I mean, it don't look like it.
And not like us earlier this year.
What you say? You asking how the Bible is God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogie man, I'm the one that up the score with them.
Like if you're one of those people that's like, they're playing Not Like Us too much, please believe me, you would have hated All About the Benjamins.
What you wanna do? Wanna be ballers, shot ballers, brawlers.
And imagine like hearing that song all the time and it's not streaming. It's on the radio, it's on all the videos, it is constantly being played. Because at this time, we don't control what music we hear. There is no Spotify or Apple Music. You turn on the radio and you hear what they want to play, and they wanted to play All About the Benjamins, and we were perfectly fine.
Drinking more liquor, dropping the bro digger. I'm with more sippers, watch my gold diggers.
And unironically or paradoxically or I don't know, Diddy didn't do much to this song. He's at the beginning and it's like, all right, thank you, Diddy. You can get out the way now. And after that is Jadakiss and Sheek Louch from The Lox without Styles P for goofy reasons I'll let you Google. And then Lil' Kim jumps on and she basically bursts an entire genre of female rappers to this day with the first line she says. Like this may not seem like much now. Like out of context, this is
her verse was crazy, young. The only female in my crew, huh? Throw a hex on the whole family, baby. Her verse was off the chain. I don't care. And that was a vicious beat. The beat was vicious. So that beat was vicious. So that was it right there. Other than that, who cares about the vocals? Especially Puffy part.
First line, she says. Like this may not seem like much now. Like out of context, this is like, okay, that's cute. In context, if you were there and you were a semi-interested female rap fan, that line made a lot of girls pick up the notebook. Like
exactly.
They were there for that. And then of course it had Biggie with a verse at the end. So I didn't like Every Breath You Take, right? But this I got jiggy with. It even had a rock remix, which was still pretty good. But that wasn't the end. Diddy's album No Way Out was full of these moments, a true classic of the era, again with relatively minimal work from Diddy by himself, which was good because he sucked. But still, it managed to somehow center him as the star of the show, regardless of the fact that he wasn't who you were really coming to see. And it made him into a top tier rapper to the culture and the greater world of hip hop fandom, which is kind of bad. Like the songs that are just Diddy are really, really bad. And furthermore, it's well understood at this time that Diddy didn't even write his own rhymes. He had Biggie, The Lox, Mace, and others writing for him, and he was still awful. So this is a problematic lesson to teach.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, man. Facts. There's nothing but facts. He said Diddy had other people writing for him. What make it so bad? They're not just writing it and handing him the lyrics. They writing it and they will spit it so he can know how the flow goes. So they rapping and you listen to it like it's your favorite song, then you lay your vocals down over top of it. And it was still not.
Well understood at this time that Diddy didn't even write his own rhymes. He had Biggie, The Lox, Mace, and others writing for him, and he was still awful. So this is a problematic lesson to teach not just Diddy, but the rest of the rap game, that if you're thinking like I'm thinking, we see the ramifications of to this day.
And there's a lot of things that Diddy did over his career, or Diddy said over his career, to me had that impact on the rap industry or how people viewed success of rap albums.
Right.
You know, that whole, don't worry if I write rhymes, I write checks.
I write checks.
We're still in the shadow of of that terrible take to me. We're like, hopefully this shift that's happening kicks that out the way for a long time. But that made it so that 80% could eschew the 20% that really took a lot of these things seriously. They could sort of boycott actually people who took time and talent in a traditional sense, or maybe a more nuanced sense, or more dynamic sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Get out the way. We're making money now.
The key to success in this industry isn't talent and hard work. It's exploitation, exploiting the death of a legend you're connected to, exploiting the talents of your would-be collaborators, exploiting the commercial appeal of hip hop as a whole without putting your full effort into it. Lil Bill, my arch nemesis, made a video explaining how Drake wasn't the first of his kind in hip hop, just the most dangerous evolution in a long history of rap prioritizing and refining its commercial appeal at the cost of its artistic purity and radical origins. It's a great video, go watch it, but I disagree with one piece of the formula he left out, which is, yeah, Drake should be compared to LL Cool J, Ja Rule, even Jay-Z, but to me, the true first Drake is Puff. In fact, I'd argue that Puff is more responsible for the deterioration of hip hop and hip hop culture than any singular figure throughout hip hop history.
How you end up on the couch? Close your mouth. Why are you looking at me like that, ugly ass nigga?
And please believe, much like Drake, Puff had pushback, but he was too good at making hits, too powerful, and eventually too iconic for people to really hold negative opinions of him for too long. Puff couldn't rap, but Puff was a vibe. And really, he was the vibe. I'd argue that the emergence of Diddy includes an era where, at least in terms of popularity, hip hop is at its peak. This swag, if you will, which of course directly connects to Puffy's persona. And that swag is the iconic images of Puffy and his peers dancing in shiny suits with Hype Williams directed videos.
When I look at myself, God has blessed me with a gift to reach a lot of people.
You sound like Michael
I've been
Jackson.
able to make a lot of things cool, from the dances that I do to the way my artists look, at the styling of the artists.
The idea of Diddy was synonymous with the high life, partying, fun, getting money, and hustling. Today, this doesn't seem like a big deal because this is what hip hop has looked like for 20 years now. But I remember the 80s and the early 90s. I remember early Tribe Called Quest and the Ghetto Boys and Boogie Down production when rap felt more insular and underground and organic. And although I didn't know what I know today, to see how concerned we should have been at Diddy popping up with these shiny suits, I didn't care then, and if I'm fair to myself, I shouldn't have, because it was too fucking fun, and it really did, regardless of its flaws, push hip-hop into a new stratosphere. Again, I want to remind you that rap music wasn't universally played on black radio probably until the mid-90s as Puff becomes this megastar. It was too dangerous or too edgy or whatever else, and like, that's how black art has always been treated. But today, Snoop Dogg, at one point the most controversial rapper in the game, is holding the torch at the Olympics in Paris or wherever they were this year. Hip hop early on was this musical boogeyman that was set to be limited to this specific role that, you know, was nice for us, but it also did limit what was possible. And now, because of Puff's effort, for better or for worse, it was this global phenomenon. As iconic as early artists like Run DMC, Rakim, and Curtis Blow were, they weren't selling out stadiums. They weren't doing huge world tours like their white counterparts, at least not regularly toward the beginning.
Yes.
They were getting crumbs by comparison. And even today, so many of those older rappers who helped shape the culture don't have money because they just didn't have control over what they were making. But when Diddy came and became hip hop's first true celebrity megastar and mogul, he ushered in that explosion in popularity that allowed him and other power brokers in hip hop to push into industries and commercial endeavors well beyond the original scope of the culture. But as awesome as this era was, it was still setting a dangerous precedent. Understand that Diddy got this big because he learned the major key to thriving in a capitalist society. Exploitation equals money. Find people with something you want and something you can exploit value from, and ensure that they're in a weaker position than you so that you can have power over their talent, over their value, and then take that.
And then that's when Puffy came in. He was like, take that.
Before we go too much further, I do want to be very clear about something. As I said earlier, the shiny suit era was amazing.
Yo, what you know about going out, head west, red legs, TVs, all up in the headrest. Try live it up, rock juice, big and truck, piece all glittered up. Sickle kid, bad boy. You know you made me feel so good. You know you made me feel so good. Where you at?
There's great hip hop in any era, including today, but for my money, the 90s was hip hop's creative peak. I'm going to rattle off a list of classics from that decade, and it will probably be different from the last time I did this in a video. So let's just see East 1999 Eternal,
What
Coming
you
Out
got to
Hard,
say?
Moment of Truth.
What you got to say? I got to pause it because I don't want no copyrights on this joint. We might have to edit this thing a little bit.
Truth, the infamous 𝗗𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦, Philadelphia Half-Life, Lethal Injection, and so on. This is my most old head take. It will remain the same. All that said, while creatively and musically, the 90s are unparalleled, that era between 2000 and 2010, the era...
Oh, man, I can't. Wait a minute.
Greatly shaped by Diddy, the shiny suit, bling, blog era is by...
Look out for Busta Rhymes also, man. Busta Rhymes, you got some explaining to do, man, as far as we concerned.
Far the high point of hip hop's popularity.
What are some of your favorite memories of hip hop and hip hop culture from the 90s and the 2000s era before you had to like engage with the dark underbelly? You know what I mean?
Listen, I think two things can still be true.
Right.
Right? And one of the things that I grapple with the most that I shared with my 60-year-old boss at the time, this is in 2008, when I really began to explore this world, was, oh my God. Her name is 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦. I'm like, Kathy, you have to listen to 8 Ball and MJG. Let me let you hear Space Age Pimpin' because we have been rapping
new things.
We've been rapping every word our entire lives.
If people would fly out to the Grammys, no ticket, no acts, really Netta and Charles in it, and just get into the gifting suites. And and as soon as Instagram popped off, and before Instagram it was MySpace and really more Twitter, and folks could get on Twitter and post themselves up in different places. And this is during the blog era too, man. Things are really coming back. Oh shit, bruh. A lot of this is in the era, this is the early social media era where particularly a lot of young Black men are able to launch music careers by going viral via a blog. But young Black men were able to get their rap careers launched off, and then the labels would just stick them in a van and ship them off to South by Southwest or to some festival in Puerto Rico, and they would do the festival circuit touring around. A lot of nasty work happens in that space.
The 2000s was an incredibly tumultuous time, though you wouldn't necessarily know it by looking at pop culture. The presidency of George W. Bush was full of unilateral and clandestine warfare. 9/11 happened, and the concept of global terrorism was etched into the American psyche along with the inception of our modern surveillance state. The crack era was dying, yes, but the meth era was on the rise. The AIDS epidemic was still happening. There was an economic collapse and a recession in the late 2000s, and that's just the things that we knew about that were carried on our news and airwaves. There were plenty of things.
All right, before we get into this Bush, Lord have mercy, another big old politician liar. This is going to be a part 1 and a part 2, man. But I know one thing. I was going to close with something. God dog it. Biggie Smalls, y'all. Check this out, man. You can tell true writers, man, because he got one thing. They'll say one line that would just last through generation and generation and generation. And Biggie said, do you remember rapping Duke? 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦? You never thought the hip hop would take it this far. That one bar. But see, you don't know the meaning behind it. Do you remember rapping Duke? Rapping Duke was a white dude, he just so happened to be white, I don't care. But he made fun of hip hop, and that song he put out, check this out, check it. The song he put out was making fun of rap because ain't nobody gonna listen to this stuff. They didn't understand it. They didn't understand how the culture and how big rap was gonna be. Do you remember rapping Duke? This is what Biggie said, because he rapping, Biggie and we heard the song. You can look it up. Go look it up. Go research the Rapping Duke song, 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦. Look it up and listen to the song as he make fun of rap music. And anybody can rap. I'm a pill. He making fun. Yeah. So that's why Biggie said, remember rapping Duke? 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦. You never thought the hip hop would take it this far. It's worldwide now. Hip hop is the biggest influence on our kids now. And we need to learn how to use this to take advantage of it to help people. Help people. Look here. I'm going to get on up out of here, man. Hey, y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out. Stay tuned for part 2, y'all.